Hi, welcome to Hope and Healing Homestead. Today I want to talk to you about the elderly in emergency situations. Um, I am part of an online prayer group, and the people of this prayer group are literally from all over the country. There's a lady in it that's very active from California. There's people from Kentucky, people from Indiana, just people from all over the place. And one of the ladies is a lady that I'm guessing, I have not met any of these people in person, but one of them I'd say is close to 90 years old. And she lives alone. And I do not believe she has any family in her immediate area. And she was alone through the ice and snowstorms. And she was a little concerned about that, but not like significantly concerned about that. And she had done all of the basic things to get ready for that snowstorm and ice storm. And from the things she had said, she was pretty much set, and she knew she could not leave because slipping and falling in ice was the absolute most dangerous thing she would deal with. And her biggest concern, honestly, was letting her little puppy out to go to the bathroom. And it all worked out for her, and she was fine. However, recently, in the last about week, I'd say about a week, she started talking about that there has been military plane activity over her home that she has never witnessed before. And quite frankly, she's spooked. She's very spooked. And it got me thinking about the elderly, especially those that are alone, completely alone, in those kinds of situations. Now, where I live, everybody looks out for each other. But what about those that are alone in areas that they really truly don't have anybody? I'm kind of throwing this out there as a way, hoping to get ideas, honestly. What can we who aren't near them suggest? I mean, the first thing I thought was, is there a way to move or move someone in? I did not suggest that. I don't know her personally. I need to make that very clear. I do not know this lady personally. I do not know enough about her family situation to know, is that even a possibility? And I have a feeling this has been her family home for years. And I know how hard that is to give up. But what are things that you guys can think of? Please leave them in the comments. I personally, I'm in a very, very fortunate situation. And I truly believe the Lord orchestrated every bit of it. Where we live in what some would consider almost a family compound type of situation. We did not build it. It happened over time, where we have multiple generations living basically side by side. And it did not happen one generation after the other, like most would think. It started with my grandparents. And then I had an uncle that built down the road. And then oddly enough, I built. And then a few years later, my parents did. I didn't grow up where I live. I grew up about 30 minutes away, but I grew up coming to my grandparents' farm my entire childhood. So I grew up coming here all the time, to this area. I bought property that actually attached to my grandparents' farm. And I'm telling you, God orchestrated it every step of the way. And it ended up that I've had an aunt that has joined this. And our whole family, it's just coming together. And on one side of my family. And I'm seeing this concept come back. A lot of people think it's kind of like the Amish. We are not Amish by any stretch of the imagination. But it's worked extremely well. What got my parents into this was actually when I had cancer. My parents moved in with us for a year to help me. And during that time period, my grandmother had declined in health. As I was getting better, my grandmother started getting worse. And so my parents had been driving back and forth from their home in the other town, and they just decided this was ridiculous, and they decided to build a small cabin, and they did. And then they decided, no, we're just going to make this full time. And so they added on to the cabin, made it a full home, and sold their home in the town. And that's how it happened. It's just one thing's led to another, and I would love for someday my adult children to all move back to the area. I believe some of my adult children will probably do that. I don't know about all of them, but I have a big family. So, I have 11 children altogether. So, I don't know. We'll see. But I think that's a concept that for the elderly, I think it really, really benefits. Being able to help each other out. The Amish do that extremely, extremely well. And I just can't tell you the benefits. And during COVID, it was a game changer. It really, really showed that we had a lifestyle we didn't really realize we had, that it was great. I mean, it was great. I just can't overemphasize how we were able to function and function well, and it didn't rattle us like it did most of the world. It truly didn't. Unfortunately, in our extended family, on my dad's side of the family, unfortunately, we did lose 2 loved ones during that time. And one for sure to COVID. And then one that I suspect it probably was COVID, but we're not for sure. And that's very unfortunate. And they were alone. Because all the rules and regulations and all those things. And yeah, it was extremely tragic. Anyway, I don't want to see that happen anymore. And I think that the generational living, I think it's going to make a big comeback. Other countries, they live generationally way more than Americans do. And I think it's something that's going to come back. I think it's coming back partially forcefully because of the horrible economy. Now, our family isn't doing it like where everybody's in one household. Actually, we're all in separate households. But it's, we're all right together though. And we have regular family dinner night, all the time, 6 nights a week, and on average. And it works like a charm. And I'm bringing that up partially because the family unit is not what it used to be. And that's part of what is wrong with our nation. We've lost track of each other. And maybe your family doesn't isn't blood. That's okay. Maybe your family is friends. That's okay too. But we got to get back to what's important here. Number one, God. And I believe God orchestrated all of this. And I believe he's going to start orchestrating it more in people's lives. Getting back to the basics of family, community, God, helping each other out. Not every man for himself. It does not work. It doesn't. It just doesn't work. But what can we do to help these individual people who really can't help themselves? I'm thinking mostly the elderly. But what could we do, especially like in a wartime effort? Or, what advice does anybody have? Let me know in the comments. All right. Thanks. See you in the next video. Bye now.